Welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket Season 2, Episode 25/50. And finally, I can stop calling. I can finally start calling Akito she. Jeez, that was the hardest thing, and it's probably popped up in my reviews a couple of times where I've either called Akito she by accident or how to edit myself out. It has been probably the hardest thing when making these reviews is to not, when referring to Akito, to either say he, which I had to kind of train myself to do that, or just try to refer to Akito in the third person the whole time, which is really hard in conversations when trying to describe things about what characters saying and do and feel, and it's like that was really hard, but I'm finally glad I can actually refer to Akito as she now. Because yes, as we learn at the very end of this episode in a big cliffhanger reveal, Akito is in fact a girl. She is in fact female. Anyway, jumping backwards. So we kind of get the start of the episode, and it's, there's not too much to talk about at the start of the episode. It's mainly just them kind of recapping the kind of post New Year's, where because Haru went to visit Rin, or I always keep wanting to say Rin, even though that is her name. I'm gonna call her Isuzu for there's reasons. Isuzu, and she's all confused. Like, I know I fell asleep sitting up, but I woke up and I was laying down. And Tohru's like, oh, could that be that's kind of strange. Do you think someone moved you? Like, maybe it was Kazuma? And she's like, Rin's like, no, he could have not. Because I would have known. I would have known if someone had moved me in my sleep. And Tohru's like, oh, what if it was Haru? And Rin's like, well, maybe if it was Haru. But then Susan's like, wait, how do you know about me and Haru? Who told you about this? Tohru's like, because technically she didn't know. She's just kind of guessing. She's like, well, based off of what Hiro said, I just kind of assumed. It's just funny little scenes like that. But you got to get this sweet scene where Yuki finally comes back, and Tohru's like, oh, hey, you're back. And then she freaks out because she sees the bandage on his head. But he's like, oh, what happened? Are you okay? And he's like, no, I got this because I stood up to Akito. I'm fine, though. Aren't you proud of me? And she kind of flashes back to, and he's smiling and he's happy, but she flashes back to the first time that she ever ran into Akito, and at the school, and Yuki was terrified and he was trembling, and in this case now he's not. He's actually he's very happy. He's perfectly fine besides the bandage on his head. He's perfectly fine. And she's like, yeah, I am proud of you. I'm glad that you're doing good. I'm glad that you've made progress. And of course Momiji shows up and they're going, I want to be praised too. It's so cute. And of course Yuki wanders off and she's like, yeah, I gave Kureno the disc. I was like, okay. That's kind of the main portion of this beginning. The beginning portion. But we see Kureno and he watches the disc. He watches the DVD, and at first he's kind of confused about it, like, okay, what's this about? But then as he sees Uo, he's like completely shocked. He's like, and of course he sees Uo's line of, just come and see me, and he's like, I need to talk to someone about. I need to go and talk to Tohru. I have to. And so he calls up Shigure's house, trying to get a hold of Tohru, but of course she's at school. And of course Shigure picks up, and you can read a lot into just how, like, the second Shigure picked up the phone and found out there was Kureno on the other line, his tone and attitude completely changed. Like, before he picked up the phone, he's like, oh, I wonder who's on the phone. And then the instant he heard it was Kureno, he's like, oh, it's you. It's you. How are you doing? And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Clearly, Shigure has some kind of relationship with Kureno that he doesn't really seem to care much for. But we'll get into that in season 3. For sure. But Kureno's like, hey, I want to know if Tohru was there, which goes like, no, she's at school. And he's like, hey, I actually needed to talk to her about something, but there's also something I needed to talk to you about as well. And she was like, okay. And then we kind of jump cut, and Tohru comes home, or she literally just arrives. She was like, oh, hey, can you, like, go pick me up some, paper or whatever? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. And she goes to leave and, go to the grocery store. And she wanders by this little park as she's leaving. And, of course, it's really good to pay attention to details as she passes by the park. And every scene, pretty much, that has, like, the little swing. Not the swings themselves, but, like, this little park bench in the background. Every scene that there is, that Tohru walks by it. Like, Tohru walks by, and there's another scene where he's off in the distance. But you see, what I'm trying to say is that you see Kureno, as Tohru walks by this park bench, he's on it. And then, of course, as she's kind of being like, oh, look, there's little sparrows. You see him off in the distance on the park bench. And it's so cool. But as he is approaching Tohru, as she's kind of sitting on the ground, like, oh, look, aren't these little sparrows cute? He approaches, and the sparrows fly off, which completely confuses Tohru, especially as she looks up and sees Kureno, because she's like, but wait a minute. Kyo told me that zodiac animals will attract their animals. The animals just come to them naturally. Cats for the cat, boar for the boar, rats for the rat, and so on. So, as the rooster / the bird, shouldn't the birds be sticking around him? And then Kureno comes up and he hugs Tohru. And he doesn't transform. And that is probably that again, this episode has 2 big reveals in it. I already told you the first one. The second one is this one. Now, mind you, the first one, or I say the first one, but the first one I talked about, but the Akito, the cliffhanger reveal being Akito's a girl and is actually a woman. A lot of people, especially if you watched it dubbed, kind of probably figured it out. But I mean, on the Japanese side, it's a little bit harder just because there are plenty of characters on the Japanese side that they can be guys, but they can be voiced by a woman. On the English side, some people kind of figured it out a little bit more just because of the fact that the voice actor was voiced by a woman. Now, it's funny is I kind of had to lead my my husband off the trail here, because when he first found out that Akito was voiced by a woman, he was like, well, I mean, that's kind of strange. So does that mean that Akito's actually like a woman? And I was like, no, because I think it's Colleen Clinkenbeard. I think that's who voices Akito in the dub. She also, I believe, voices Luffy from One Piece, the main male character from One Piece. And so I was like, oh, they just kind of get that. Sometimes they'll do that for certain characters, and they decided to do it for Akito. So I kind of had to lead him off the trail. And so at the end of the episode, when it was revealed that, oh, Akito's a woman, not only was he already mind blown by the fact that, oh, wait, Kureno's curse is broken. Not only was he shocked by that, but then he was completely shocked by, wait a minute, Akito's actually a girl. And what's funny is I actually had to show it because he was confused at first. He was like, wait, what? I had to go back and re-show him the scene where it's like, no, they kind of definitely revealed it prior to that final scene with Akito in like the really, like the final image with Akito and all the camellias. I think that's what those are. But he had to go back and watch the scene twice because he's like, wait, what? Akito's a girl? It was so funny. But yes, it worked. I was so happy that I was able to. I mean, it's one of those worst kept, but also it's like worst kept secrets of the series because, like, I don't know. It's one of those things that it works really well in manga form because you can't tell what characters' voices are. But it's harder to do it in anime form because they actually have voices and, yeah. Anyway, so going back, I know I jumped forward to the other one, but Kureno reveals that yes, his curse is in fact broken, and Tohru immediately, as soon as she hears him say that, she immediately jumps onto, how did your curse break? How did it happen? What happened? How did it break? And his answer is, I really don't know. I was in middle school when it happened, and it just broke one day. And you get this. I mean, you kind of, because you also see it like at the very beginning of the episode, but you get this scene where you see kind of this teenage Kureno and a very young Akito. She's, I don't know, probably maybe 8, 9-ish, I think. 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. Maybe 8. Um, and Kureno's curse broke, and he's standing there, and the young Akito shows up, and she completely freaks out. She starts crying and screaming, and of course she literally runs off with him and like takes him into her room, and then she's like, why are you looking at me so different? What happened? I don't understand how the curse broke. It's like, I don't understand how it broke either. It just happened. And she runs up to him and she kind of tackles him to the ground, and she cries her eyes out and goes, please don't leave me. Please don't abandon me. Please don't leave me. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. Please, I beg you, don't leave me. Don't abandon me. Don't leave me alone. Now, it's interesting because there were some people in the community that were like, oh, she's trying to be manipulative right there. No. That's actual Akito. That is Akito that, like, so for me, at least the way I see it, is that's the Keto before she went crazy. And I could be my understanding is that, because if you go off of Yuki's time, kind of what Yuki has, and I can't give you all the details yet, but at least from my understanding is that after Kureno's curse broke, that's when Akito actually snapped. And that's when she kind of went crazy, and that's when you see her start abusing Yuki, and you see she starts painting the room black, and she says, "Oh, Yuki, you're not needed, but I am." But Akito's reaction to Kureno's curse breaking is her true self. She is just a pure scared little girl, and that she doesn't want to be left alone. She doesn't want to be abandoned. She literally begs him with tears, saying, "Please don't leave me." And Kureno, and you kind of get flashback to modern day now. I say modern, but you flash back to current time, and pretty much Kureno's like, I can't. I feel this the whole time he's refusing this. He's just saying Akito, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm just gonna insert the her in there because it's just gonna be easier to talk about it. Basically, he says I can't leave her. She's someone who's special. She's someone who, as much as I want to see Uo, and even though I only ever had met her twice, and even though she's the first person I actually really fell in love with since my curse broke, the first person that I actually felt like I could choose to be with, that I'd want to be with her, I can't. I want to, but I can't because I have to stay with Akito. I promised her that, and she needs me. I'm not bound to her, and because Toru's like, isn't there? I think she asked this. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe it's in the manga. It might be in the other half of the chapter in the manga. But she's like, isn't there anything that you're bound by? And he's like, no, I love, like, I'm in love with Uo, but I can't be with her. I can't go and see her, and I don't ever plan on seeing her again because I can't leave Akito's side. And I'm doing it by choice. No one's forcing me to do it. I'm choosing to stay by Akito's side. Now there is more to this, but I don't really want to give more because we're definitely gonna get the rest of this conversation in the next season. I'm assuming the first episode of the next season we're gonna be getting more on this information. But there's something between Uo and not Uo, Kureno and Tohru I have a very strong comparison that I really want to talk about one day, but I can't talk about it here because now that we've pretty much got the Kureno side of the information, we need to get to the rest of the Tohru side of the information, which won't happen until season 3, and then I can finally talk about this really interesting parallel that they have, um, because they get compared to each other quite a lot. And I believe it even in the upcoming. I believe even in the upcoming chapter slash next the episode. They'll I think someone even makes a comparison. But we'll get into that when season 3 actually airs. um, but yeah, so he pretty much says, I want to be with Uo. She's the first person I really have chosen to love and felt like she's freely the choice I have. Now that I'm free to the curse, I can choose whoever I want to be with, but I'm gonna stay with Akito because I need to. But you get this really sad scene. It's a really sad visual because you kind of get these little flashbacks of Akito telling Kureno before his Chris breaks, like, oh, you're the bird, right? So you can go flying in the sky, which, that's pretty cool. That'd be cool, so cool to be able to fly, fly and just go where you want to. And then, of course, his curse breaks, and Kureno says, I can't fly anymore. And so he very much so is. And again, there's so much more I want to say about this, but I can't say it yet because it involves something that I want to compare with Tohru about, but that's later. But he's, in a lot of ways, he's a bird. He was the bird, but more so than that, he can't fly anymore. He's more so a bird with broken wings at this point than anything else. Oh my gosh. Again, I want to say more, but I don't want to say too much because I want to save that for later when I can actually make the full comparison that I want to actually make. Anyway, but yeah, at the end of the episode, he refers to Akito as a girl. He says, I just have to be there for her, for that child. That's all I can see her as. And Toru's like, her, and he's like, wait, Akito's a girl, and of course, that's what they said in season 2 at. I'm like, okay, get a big cliffhanger there. Which was, okay, that was an interesting way to end it. Okay. But yeah, so that is the end of season 2, and it is, we had a lot of information. A lot of things happened. Yeah, so season 3. I'd assume that we're gonna start up. I can't really say too much, but I'd assume that we'd probably start up with the rest of this conversation. Anyway, but yes, this was a whopper of an episode. This was yeah. It is a thing that happened. Anyway, got the 2 big reveals finally. Anyway, okay. So that's really about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys when season 3 starts up. Bye for now.